Welcome back, everybody. We are on chapter 3, and we're going to jump right into it. First, we're going to start with the title, right? It's chapter 3, A Puzzle Box, a Magnifying Glass, and the Mysterious Egg. Joy is in the detail. So that's our theme for this chapter. This is going to guide us through here. I want to start off excuse me, with the two quotes in the beginning of it. I think they're pretty important. It says, in photography, the smallest thing can be a great subject. The little human detail can become a leitmotif. And that's Henri Cartier-Bresson. And then it goes on with the next one. With a keen eye for details, one truth prevails. Gosho Aoyama, Aoyama. It's a pretty important, one truth prevails with attention to details. So he's definitely trying to tell us something there. So Laura, do you want to start us off with either a comment on one of these quotes or what you found first?
I have a comment on both quotes. So let's start with the first one, Henri Cartier-Bresson. So I, of course, had to research leitmotif and find out what it means, because I didn't know the word. So the word means a song that accompanies the appearance of a specific person, idea, or situation. So, for example, if you kind of think about it, I think it first occurred in operas. So whenever a particular character would appear, this song, the same refrain would kind of play whenever this person would appear. So that was kind of an indicator that that person or a theme was reoccurring, was appearing again. So thought that was interesting for sure. So Henri Cartier-Bresson was a French photographer, 1908 to 2004. So he lived a very long life. So thinking about that quote, the little human detail can become a leitmotif. So does that mean, so because the leitmotif had to do with a reoccurring event, person, detail, that kind of tied back to me that we need to be looking for things that are reoccurring. The details that are reoccurring have significance.
We'll definitely have to keep that in mind when we go through this chapter, because this is there's a lot of stuff going on in this chapter, right? He jumps around from one thing to another, so we'll keep that in mind when we take our notes going through. What did you find on the other quote?
Well, I just a little bit of background or context, because I had no idea who Gosho Aoyama, I think, was. So he was the creator of a character, Detective Conan, and he is an author, a Japanese manga artist, known for a series called Conan. Oh, no, series called, hold on, Case Closed, and that Detective Conan is a part of it. So I think it was just a cool quote because, the detective and kind of that theme of searching and looking for clues aligned nicely with the book, but I didn't have anything deeper than that other than context of who that was.
It's interesting. If I ever get a chance to talk to JCB, ask him how he came up with finding these quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would like to know that. Like, if we get to talk to him, that's a good question.
Because there's a lot. I mean, just to get into, when you're writing this book, not to go off on a tangent, but, to really research these, he had to have known what he's looking for. He purposely put these in there. It's not like he just hit a random quote generator and he put them in there. He sounded right. So I think that's important to know when you read these chapters, is really to pay attention to the quotes, because they're handpicked. You could have picked a bunch of quotes about detail and they would have fit in general, right?
Yeah.
But there's there's specific ones he picked, not, and I don't think it's because he thought they sounded good, right?
Yeah, no, I think there is like some sort of significance. I think he had a theme, like, okay, detail, like the chapter detail. And then he probably went through quotes or that, and he was looking for something that had kind of a tie in to some sort of clue or specific mode of thinking about the chapter.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So that's my guess.
So I had something. The first thing that really jumped out at me was, he said Japan is a culture alive with details. The Japanese take an immense pride in being exacting in their art, engineering, and service. These qualities are so much of what makes Japan special, and why once I finally visited, I almost never returned home. Now, in the Forrest Fenn chapter, because I've been doing a lot with that, he speaks of traveling to Japan in there, but he then referenced that it's, he had to travel back, because later on he said he invited, and maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but he invited his wife Kimberly, or now wife Kimberly, to come with, and then they went and bought these Japanese puzzle boxes, and we'll get to that. But in the Forrest Fenn chapter, he said that he wanted to stay, but he had to come back for Kimberly. So I don't know if that's even relevant, because he's talking about it differently, and how that would work, how that would fit in there. But more importantly, he said, he almost never returned home, because this is a time where JCB had no joy. The joy was missing, right? And we talked before about when he says joy a lot, and do we look for things that bring him joy, or absence of joy, or were we searching for it? So that's why I highlighted this part to pay more attention to that, because I think that's important as well, because he did this to bring him joy, and maybe the things that don't bring him joy might have a little more nuggets in there, or little kernels of significance, meaning behind it. Thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the reoccurrence of the word joy everywhere, like it's just everywhere, has significance. And I agree with you. It stood out to me too about when he said he had lost his joy. I do think there's this kind of complex compound meaning about the word joy.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, could do episode after episode about that, looking at every occurrence of joy and talking about that. But he does say he had lost his joy. And then, at one point in this section, he talks about he had budding joy, or kind of the joy was coming back. So, which was beautiful.
Yeah. And it's contrasting it too, right? So that, again, the chapter is the joys in the details, right? Yeah. So I think that's really important correlation that we really need to look for in this chapter, and sort of see where that comes around, right? Because he then talks about a little more. He said you might have heard of Hakone. It's famous for its natural mineral baths, scenic beauty, nestled below lush green mountains. He said, meanwhile, about 6,000 nautical miles east of Japan and 40 miles northeast of Asheville, North Carolina, lies another small town tucked away in the mountains, and this place is named Bakersville. And the people who live there enjoy scenic green mountains not too dissimilar to Hakone, Japan. Now, this is where JCB talks about the green mountains in Japan, and the same green mountains in the hometown of Seth Gould and Seth Gould. um, he's setting it up here, right? And after I get your take on this, he does get a little more in detail about this. So, what are your thoughts about that? How he's comparing or contrasting the uh, Green
Yeah.
Mountains in Japan
The,
with the ones back at
yeah,
home?
the two locations. You know, so I loved his description of Japan. Like it makes me want to jump on a
Yeah,
plane right
yeah,
now. And it's always been on my list of places to visit.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, that was such a beautiful and amazing description. Um, Hakone would be the city, just so you
yeah.
know,
Okay.
Hakone. Um, but I think that I got caught up in reading that narrative about Japan and the description, and I I think I may have missed like significance of some of the details, right? Because this chapter, so maybe we're going to have to look at this chapter in two different ways. First of all, it's just kind of going through and kind of picking out what he's talking about, and kind of the very literal. But then the joy being in the details means I think we need to look really specifically at some of the things that reoccur, like I said, and some of the specific details. But I didn't get that deep in it yet. But I do think that the budding joy in opening one of the wooden boxes that he refers to, and then that transition and parallel to Seth Gould and Bakersville, North Carolina, has to have significance. Like I mean, he had to find a transition, surely, between one place and the other, and how he came up with the concept for the boxes. But yeah, I mean, I love the parallel.
Yeah, that's
It's
what's
lovely.
it's it's a good point you made. I know we mentioned this before. We have to go through it a little deeper, but it's always good to go through it casually, right? And he even says this in the intro when you read it casually, and
Yes.
then read it again. And I found since we've been doing these chapters, this is where we've really picked up on a lot of things when we
Yeah.
finish the chapter. And because I when we usually split a chapter up into two videos, I'll reread what we did
Mhm.
and then go back to the second part and read that a couple times. But that's usually when we find the really important things. We did it with chapter two, right? We
Mhm.
found a whole ton of stuff when we went back through it. So it's really important to get the high level, and that's what we're doing, going through, talking about some of the things that are really just initially start popping out, and then boom, we're like, well, yeah, this is what it is, right? These are the key points in it that come out. I don't know, it's something exciting. I found this doing the other videos during the week on the part two boxes the same way. It's like, wow, things are
Right.
just like jumping out at me at night
Yeah.
when I wake you up and tell you about them.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's super interesting here how he then goes into the narrative about kind of the quest to find the right type of boxes for the treasures.
Yeah.
So he said that he searched and he couldn't find boxes sufficient. And I actually really liked some of the language that he used in that section. He had this whole series of verbs that I thought were, it was just really nicely written. But so he said, but he couldn't find boxes that were sufficient, so he had them made. But how he kind of found out about Seth Gould is by seeing one of his pieces in the Renwick in the Smithsonian. Um, and so I took a peek at that on Seth Gould's
It's
site,
pretty
and
incredible.
I mean it's in the book as well, but it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Really,
It's huge
yeah.
too. It's like 2 feet wide.
Oh yeah, you're right. I didn't look at it, It's not in the book. I saw it on his
Yeah.
website, the one that's in the Renwick. Yeah.
It looks
Yeah,
just
two
like,
feet.
it looks
That,
like Lion Share, but bigger.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's really incredible. So we might have to take at least a quick little trip out to DC,
Yeah.
and take a look at it. That would be fun.
That'd be great inspiration too.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That would
but
that would be very cool.
I don't know if you picked this up in you hit on my next point. So I want to jump to this other one because he goes on to say it was obvious to me that Seth Gould was the person destined to build our treasure boxes, right? My first
Right.
conversation with Seth lasted quite a while. And this is the part that really got me and stood out what he said. He said, I made sure he knew I'd grown up in North Carolina and that I had lots of family who lived not too far from him. Why would he stressed this enough to even put it in here? He made sure he knew, right? I mean,
I don't know. The way that I took that is just that he had some convincing to do to get Seth to take on this project. And one of the ways that you try to bring someone along to doing something that you want is to find commonality. And so it's,
cash,
oh, yeah,
right?
we're both North Carolina people. My people are still
Yeah.
here. Like, so that's all I took it as.
Yeah, I thought, but you know what? I thought maybe, I mean, JCB's got some money and he's going to be like, look, pencil out your calendar for next year. I'm going to fund your whole year of making stuff. And this
Well, I'm
sounds
sure
pretty
that
cool,
happened.
right?
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I've looked on Seth Gould's website and the stuff he sold is pretty high priced stuff. And that was just some of your basic, hand tools or something.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I can't
so,
imagine.
so
He
I don't
doesn't
know.
ever say how much the boxes cost, right?
No, he did say in like an interview or something that one of the boxes could be worth just as much as what treasure is in it.
I bet.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not surprised. I'm thinking six figures on some of these boxes. If
Yeah.
it took him that long
Absolutely.
and looking at
The
his other
detail
work,
is insane.
yeah. But
Yeah.
to me, it seemed it jumped out a little bit. I made sure he knew, right?
Yeah. So I
So
think there may be more to dig into on this whole Seth Gould and the description about him and his, kind of how meticulous he is. But since we're coming about up on time, the last thing that stood out to me that I thought was intriguing and was his kind of explaining that 7 actions are required to open the box. And then he says, don't damage the box. He left instructions about how to open it. So a
he
couple things
says
stood
that.
out to me, but
Yeah, he says that it's a recurring theme in the part two boxes as well. But the amount some of the boxes in part two are 5 steps, some are 3.
okay.
This one's 7.
Okay.
I see a recurring theme of numbers again. So maybe we'll
Yeah.
talk a little more about that on the next video. Because I have
Yeah,
I have a couple things to
absolutely.
say
And
about that
one
as
thing
well.
you and I have kicked around about this whole left instructions with it is that means that the box is, and it should be, inside of something else where there are things like instructions about how to open it and probably his contact information and all of that,
Yeah,
right?
he didn't
He
tape it
isn't
to the
just
box, right?
right, right. You didn't tape it. I mean, and we know the box has to be able to withstand weather and years out. And so yeah, we've had a lot of fun dialogue about what is the box inside.
We should just do a video once on like what it could be, right?
Yeah,
That'd be
that'd be
cool.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
So
there's
lots more to come in this chapter.
yeah.
Good stuff.
So with that, I ask everybody to read this chapter if you probably already have, but reread it, go through it with a fine tooth comb because the joy is in the details, right? So
Yeah.
and join us next Sunday. We'll get through this chapter, but we'll have a lot of other stuff because I have some other things that popped up and as the story goes on, so you really don't want to miss it. So thanks
Awesome.
for joining us, and we will see you next Sunday. Bye.
Bye.